My name's John Kriesel. I'm happy to be here today. I live in Cottage Grove with my wife Katie and our two sons, Elijah and Brody. I joined the National Guard on my 17th birthday. I didn't have a chance for a birthday party or anything like that. That was my dream. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do since I was a little boy. It was the best choice I ever made. When people ask me about my time in the military, sum it up as nearly 10 years of really good times and one really bad day. And that really bad day was December 2nd of 2006. We were on a patrol in the morning to check out some suspicious activity, and then in the afternoon we went on another patrol to check out more suspicious activity. We were riding in a fully up armored Humvee, and I remember as we were rounding the corner, the last corner we were to turn on before our objective, I remember hearing this metallic clank, this plink, and then this loud quiet. I don't remember flying through the air. I don't remember hitting the ground, but I remember waking up on the ground and hearing rocks falling, like a hailstorm. It sounded like rocks hitting metal or hail hitting metal. And I heard my friend yelling, "What's going on? What happened?" I didn't want to believe what had just happened, but I've been a Minnesota Vikings fan my entire life, so I'm used to the absolute worst case scenario. So I opened my eyes. I saw what had been a brand new, fully up armored Humvee, completely destroyed on its side, facing the wrong direction. I looked down. I saw that my left leg just above the knee was connected, maybe by a piece of skin, but most likely just my pant leg was holding it on. And my right leg below the knee looked like I stuck it into a wood chipper. I was pretty sure that this is where my life was going to end. So I tried to stay calm. The human body has an amazing way of doing that for us. I was in severe shock. I didn't really feel any pain at this point. I felt warm and itchy. And we didn't have any medics with us on this patrol, so the only people that could help us were the men in the vehicle in front of us. And thankfully, they were paying attention during our combat lifesaver training. They came rushing back, and the first one that came up to me, my buddy Adam Gallant from Plummer, Minnesota, way up north, he said, "Kreese, I'm not going to lie to you, dude, your legs are really bad, okay?" I was like, "Really? Thanks." He said, "But we're going to get you out of here, okay? You're going to be just fine." I said, okay. Put a tourniquet on my right leg, got the bleeding to stop. And he had to check on the others because there was 5 of us in that vehicle. And I knew from the sounds I heard I wasn't the most severely injured. Next guy that comes up, my buddy Todd Everson from Prior Lake, Minnesota. He's kind of the opposite. He comes over, he says, "Hey, buddy, you look great. Everything's going to be wonderful. You're going to see Katie and the boys. You look amazing." It was the fakest smile I'd ever seen until I got into politics. So he starts putting a tourniquet on my left leg, tightening it down. It would slide off. He'd slide it back up, tighten it. Finally got it to hold, but when it was slipping off, he'd give me that fake smile again. And he got it to stop, dressed up my wounds, said, "Okay, just hang in there, buddy." And they were having to go around and help my other friends, and I wasn't at the risk of running off anywhere. So then Adam comes back over, and he says, "We're going to have to move you. This is going to suck really bad." And I thought, well, I don't think it could be any worse right now. Then they flipped my legs up onto my chest and lifted me up because they had to get me away from the vehicle because it wasn't stable, and they were trying to save one of my friends who was trapped underneath it. That was quite the sight, having my legs on my chest, because I'd never been a gymnast or a hockey goalie or anything like that. So they lifted me up. That's about the only time I'd felt pain. They moved me away from the vehicle off to an open spot to where the helicopters and more help could get to me. In the process, they're trying to keep me alert and conscious. I kept closing my eyes because I didn't want to see anymore, and I felt tired. So they'd come up and they'd slap me in the face. They'd say, "Stay awake, keep fighting." I'd say, okay. They did this like 3 times, and finally I was like, "Enough, you guys. You know, I lived through this 200-pound bomb, and you're going to beat me to death." I have to explain that one to my wife. And so what they did is they had one of the men from my vehicle, who you would think would be the most severely injured. He was the gunner sticking out of the top. He had been shot out of that vehicle like a Roman candle. They said, "Keep Kriesel talking." And this guy had been running around going, "What time is it? What's going on? What time is it? What time is it?" Clear brain injury. So they sit him down. They say, "Keep him talking." So he's asking me, "Sergeant Kriesel, what's your wife's name?" "Katie." "What are your boys' names?" "Elijah, Brody." "Where do you live?" "Cottage Grove." Roger. Sergeant Kriesel, what's your wife's name? So we went through this like 3 times. To Bruce's credit or discredit, I think he started with a brain injury, but he kept it up, and finally, like the 3rd time, I'm like, get him away from me, leave me alone. And he said, negative, Sergeant, what is your wife's name? Around this time, I felt myself get cold, and I knew a good Minnesota boy should not feel cold on an 80-degree day in Iraq. So I was pretty sure things were wrapping up. I said my prayers, and it was shortly after that, within minutes, that I heard a helicopter coming. And I knew that one had to be mine, and it was. It was the Purple Fox's helicopter transport unit from Al Taqaddum Air Base to my rescue. They landed, loaded me onto that helicopter along with some of my friends, and as it took off, I remember them asking me my social security number, and I could only get the first number of it out. I was so tired. And that's the last thing I remember till I woke up 8 days later at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And when I woke up, I heard a woman's voice. She said, John, do you know where you're at? And I said, looked around, I saw it was a hospital room, so this better not be heaven, otherwise somebody lied to me. It might be the other place, and my school teachers were right. So I said, is this Germany? She said, no, you were just in Germany, you're now at Walter Reed, welcome home. I said, okay. And she said, you know who this is? It was my wife. I said, yeah, you bet. And she said, well, what's her name? And I thought, well, that's a dumb question. Then I couldn't remember her name. And the look on her face, she thought, man, he's even worse than before. And luckily, I had the wherewithal to not just start guessing. Brittany, Susan, Rachel, Kim. I would have had some explaining to do. The medication wore off because it was a medically induced coma. And I remembered, Katie, I passed that test. I looked around, I saw that my legs had been amputated where the injuries occurred. My arms were in casts, I was hooked to machines. Everything from that day came rushing back. The sights, the sounds, the smells, everything. And it is tough to live through it once, but then to have to relive it so soon after it is even tougher. And I asked my wife, I said, where's Tim, where's Nellie? My best friend, my squad leader, my roommate, and he was in the seat behind me when we hit the IED. She said, he got nicked up, but he's going to be just fine. He's still in Iraq. He's going to return to duty in a couple weeks. I said, okay, thank God. Then I said, what about the others? And she just had that look on her face. She didn't have to tell me, but she told me that 2 of my best friends, Corey Risted from Red Lake Falls, Minnesota, and Brian McDonough from Maplewood, Minnesota, had both died in the blast. For me, that is the lowest I've ever felt. That's rock bottom. All the things we go through in life, and especially in the military, where there's a manual for everything, including how to eat dinner, it seems like. This is one of those situations that there is no manual. There is no guideline for how you get through this. For the loss of one friend, turn to page 225, and for the loss of 2 friends, turn to page 300. There's nothing like that. So for me, that is rock bottom, but that is also the moment that I realized that how fortunate I was to have survived through that blast. And regardless of my injuries, it would be pretty poor of me to sit and feel sorry for myself when I had 2 friends that did not have the opportunity that I had to fight for my life and survive. And I realized that every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. And I got a second chance at life. And I said, that was my vow moving forward, is that I wasn't going to waste that second chance. And so the message here today isn't that this is going to happen to any of you, because it's not. Now, I have some friends from the Military Order of the Purple Heart that have been through similar ordeals, but this isn't going to happen to anybody else in this room. But bad things happen to all of us. Maybe lose a job, had a bad day at work, bad day at home. It doesn't matter how big or how small that adversity is that we face. It's an attitude that we bring to the table that will help us overcome that adversity and overcome anything we face in life. And that is the most important thing. That's a lesson I learned in the military, along with many other values that I feel made me a better person. Very similar to the values that are taught in scouting. Very similar. And I feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to serve in the military, the chance to to learn values and to have the opportunity to lead and to be with some of the finest people I have ever met. And I feel like that made me a better person, a better father, a better husband. And that is why scouting is awesome, is it sets that foundation for our youth. And that is why all of us are here today, is to support scouting and to support the good that is scouting and give the opportunities to all these young people in our communities. I was quite the knucklehead growing up. I had to do a lot of my schoolwork in the hallway because my teachers didn't think I was very funny. Now, I wasn't the devil or anything. I just liked to get people to laugh in class, and everybody usually would except the teacher. So I'd sit in the hallway. You know, I had very little parental guidance growing up. The military gave me a foundation that I could build on and become a better person. Now, scouting, for many people, is an outlet from what is otherwise a very tough life. There are a lot of people, and by raising money today, you may be helping a lot of youth that this is their chance, this is their escape, this is their ability to be able to overcome some things at home that might not be the best situation, and set a solid foundation moving forward and allow them to eventually become healthy, happy, productive citizens and leaders within our community. Many times, I don't think a day goes by that someone doesn't thank me for my service and say, thank you for what you do, thank you for your service. And it means a lot to me. And I know other veterans in the room here feel the same way. But it is really people like you all, people in this room, that raise money to support organizations like the Scouts, and people like the Scouts themselves that fight to make this such a wonderful community and a wonderful place to live. And really, that is why we join the military. That is why we serve. There's a reason that now there's wars going on, people know that there's dangers, and still the military has people right now joining, raising their hand to defend our freedom. And that's because it is the greatest country in the world. And in my opinion, regardless of the weather, this is the greatest state in the country. It's the finest place I've ever lived. And a lot of that is because of the wonderful giving community that we live in. And so with that, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank you for honoring this institution and for allowing me to tell my story. I truly believe in scouting. I believe in the good that it is and the opportunity that it presents for so many of our youth. Youth is only 20% of our population, but they are 100% of our future. So thank you for supporting scouting, and I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you.